And joining us now as we catch up on what is going on in the swine industry, Dr. Paul Sundberg with the Swine Health Information Center is on with us here today. Dr. Sundberg, always great to catch up with you, sir. I hope you're doing well.
I'm doing well, Jesse. Thanks. It's always good to be with you, too.
Well, we appreciate the time. We have a few different things to talk about. And the first one I want to dive in and discuss, we've talked a bit about this with you and Dr. Megan Niederwerder with Schick about the Wean to Harvest biosecurity program. And I know just last week, making an announcement, the round one projects have been announced. Can you talk just a little bit about this first round of funding for projects under this program, Paul?
Sure. One of the missions of the Swine Health Information Center is to monitor disease and analyze data, analyze industry data in the U.S. And early last year, we had a number of points come together that pointed toward the vulnerability of the industry with biosecurity on finishing floors, on finishing sites, and nursery sites. And that includes transportation, the trucks moving on and off the farms. And so the Schick Board of Directors put together a coalition with the Foundation for Food and Agriculture Research and Pork Checkoff to put money together to focus specifically on wean to harvest biosecurity. And that includes transportation. That's why we call it wean to harvest. The first round of proposals were done and evaluated the last year. We put together a list of industry priorities from input from a broad variety of people across the industry. A lot of pork producers, a lot of transport people, veterinarians, researchers. So I think we got some real on the ground type of research priorities. And that first round was done and selected, and we funded projects both in transportation and site biosecurity. We're in the throes now of very quickly announcing another call for proposals, doing the second round as we go through this, because it's going to be a process. We know it's not going to be quick and it's not going to be easy, but it's something that we're really committed to focusing on, to trying to help the industry with that biosecurity risk.
Well, I know the first round here of projects that were awarded, you mentioned it, both transportation and on-site, looking at biosecurity for both. And I just looked through the list, and overall, just with this whole program, Paul, very wide variety, a wide range, but that's necessary to cover all the different aspects, wean to harvest, isn't it?
Yeah, it sure is. Everybody recognizes, I think, the risk to transport trucks and going to first concentration, going to the market, and then coming back to the farms and going between sites. So we really wanted to focus on transport and cleaning trailers, cleaning the cabs, checking to see if the trailers are clean with a new type of technology, and even routing of trucks between negative and positive sites. When you get to site biosecurity, there's two purposes to site biosecurity. One is biocontainment, and that means that if you have a disease on that farm, on that site, the question is, how do you best keep it there and keep it from sharing with your neighbors? The second is bioexclusion, and that's kind of what I think people usually think about biosecurity as, it's keeping things out. But we wanted to include both biocontainment, keeping it on the farm, as well as bioexclusion, keeping it off.
Well, a lot of things to watch here. And I know as this program continues to build and move forward, we'll see the research and more. Swinehealth.org. I know folks can stay up to date with the latest there. Speaking of the latest, Paul, I want to just transition over to some of these diseases we're watching, not only with the Wean to Harvest program, but just broadly. Obviously, ASF still an issue, wondering an update there, but I know there's some other disease issues you're watching closely as well. Can you just give us an overview of what you are watching globally right now?
Yeah, ASF continues to be the number one pig disease around the world. There's no doubt about that. Another farm in Germany broke, so you talk about East Europe, and you've got Germany and Romania. There isn't ASF yet in Denmark, and they're doing everything they can do to exclude it, to make sure that it doesn't come in. But especially where there's a high population of feral pigs in Eastern Europe, it's very hard to contain that, because that virus moves around those feral pigs and it serves as a point of infection to domestic herds. One thing about ASF too, I want to make sure that we mention again that it isn't a disease of people. It isn't a pork safety or food safety issue. It's strictly a disease of pigs and transmits between pigs. So that's an important piece. ASF keeps moving around. We've got it in the Dominican Republic and Haiti, the island of Hispaniola in the Caribbean. So far, we have the USDA and Customs and Border Protection, along with the government of the Dominican Republic, has been successful in keeping it there. For a long time, classical swine fever has been on that island, and it's been controlled. We're hopeful that we'll have the same situation with African swine fever there. But then again, it's a lot of pressure with that virus moving around the world the way it is. Some other things we're watching, Japanese encephalitis virus, and maybe a new one to hear about. That caused a big outbreak in Australia last year. 6 to 10% of their production left. It's primarily a breeding herd disease transmitted by mosquitoes. And so far this year, through their summer season, that's our winter, of course, they've been very quiet with Japanese encephalitis virus there, which is good news. And we're in the process of collaborating with researchers there to understand the epidemiology and what's going on with JEV in Australia. We've got Geta virus in China. That's a new one. That is also transmitted by mosquitoes, and it's a virus that causes breeding herd problems. And then there's Nipah virus in Bangladesh. Nipah virus is another zoonotic virus that can go between pigs and people. Primarily, though, it spreads from fruit bats to people and from person to person. It can be a very serious virus, a very serious disease, and can cause mortality in people. And pigs are kind of an infected species on the side, but they certainly are something that we are keeping an eye on and watching for the effects of Nipah virus down in that area of the world.
Well, Paul, as well, thinking here domestically, I know we've had some issues, recurring issues with PRRS. Are we still watching PRRS being an issue here as we work into the spring across parts of the U.S.?
Yeah, we sure are, Jesse. One of the things that we're concerned about, that we're watching and we're trying to make people aware of, is a lineage that's a variant that's called 1C. It's a line 1C PRRS, and it happens in the serotype 124 and 144. So there's a 124 and a 144 variant now that's called 1C. In 2009 to 2021, in the Midwest, there were a total of 421 infections with the 1C variant. In 2022, it jumped to 264 during just that 1 year. The 1C variant started showing up, especially last year in Missouri, Iowa, and Minnesota, right in the heart of the Midwest. And now the first part of 2023, we're finding it in Indiana and Tennessee, Ohio, Pennsylvania. So it's moving east, and that's of concern, because if it hits North Carolina and the spots where we have a high concentration of breeding herds, it'll cause even more problems. Most of the pigs from North Carolina come west, are trucked west from North Carolina for finishing, but those trucks have to go back to North Carolina, and that transport risk, the movement risk of people and of trucks and of feed is most probably the way this virus is starting to move east. So it's a concern. It's something that we've got to make sure that people are aware about and think about with their biosecurity programs.
Well, I think that transportation all ties back into the work you guys are doing with things like the Wean to Harvest biosecurity program we mentioned as well, and just everything you guys do at the Swine Health Information Center, all your research. I know folks can stay up to date, or if they have questions, they can reach out very easily by going to swinehealth.org, can't they?
Address, my telephone address, as well as Dr. Niederwerder's addresses are right up there. If anybody has any ideas about what needs to happen, what is happening, or questions about their herds or their biosecurity or anything else we do with swine health, just get a hold of us and we'll help you every way we can.
Well, we appreciate the time as always. Dr. Paul Sundberg with the Swine Health Information Center. Thanks for joining us today. We'll talk to you again soon, sir.
My pleasure. Thanks, Jesse.